If you could give us the program overview at all the colleges at Emporia State.
We offer over 200 programs now, so a little bit of something for everybody. There are more than 4,000 universities in the United States, and we are ranked number 33. The campus is located at the focal point of the city.
Example, if I'm a student at Emporia State and if I am majoring in management program, can I study history with it?
You can have the flexibility to switch programs even if it's, 2 years in. Yeah, you come to Emporia State and you have a job waiting for you. So 98% of our graduates have a job in their field of study within 6 months of graduation. He was actually originally designed by one of our most famous alums who actually ended up designing characters for Disney. Biggest competition in the world is for that sport is held in Emporia.
Really?
Sure, let's talk about some traditions. Hilarious. And there is said to be a curse on this arch.
Really? While they're studying, during their education, is there some on-campus opportunities that they get?
I think right now there are more jobs than there are people willing to work them.
US education is usually fairly expensive, considered expensive. What are some of the financial aids or scholarships that students can apply for? Welcome to On Spotlight, a podcast series where we shed some light on your foreign education queries. Hi, I'm Jwalin Rao, Director at Rao Consult. Over the years, we've been privileged to walk alongside students as they navigate their study abroad journey, facing questions, excitement, and sometimes uncertainty. That's why we're launching On Spotlight, a podcast where we'll talk with universities, industry experts, and inspiring alumni who are going to share their stories and advices that can help you make informed choices about your future. So today we've got Mr. Chase Snider. He's the Assistant Director of International Admissions at Emporia State University. He's somebody who's been teaching foreign languages for 5-6 years, I believe. And he's somebody who's well-traveled. You've been to 30 plus countries?
Yeah, actually, India is 31.
Oh, wow, 31 countries. With the objective of sort of connecting students with Emporia, fostering global education is what I understand. So every time I get the script from the content team and I'm supposed to introduce the guest and I'm supposed to introduce the institute, but I think it makes more sense if we get to hear the story from you.
Sure.
So if you could sort of introduce yourself, talk a little bit about yourself before we get into talking about Emporia State.
Yeah, it would be my pleasure. So first of all, thank you for having me on the podcast. I'm really excited to be here. I'm very also excited to be in India for the first time. I've received such a nice, warm welcome from the Indian people and the schools that I've visited so far. So yeah, true pleasure to be here. So yeah, as you said, my name is Chase Snider. I'm the Assistant Director of International Admissions at Emporia State University. We have a relatively small international team, so we're about 5 people right now. And my job is to go abroad, meet students in person, work with agents, talk with universities, visit some schools, and try to build these connections and help international students get to the United States. So I've been doing this for a few years now, but as you mentioned, previously I was a foreign language teacher. So I'm a double alum of Emporia State University. So, Yep. So I was a student there myself, and so I know the value of the education there. And that's part of the reason I'm passionate about bringing it to international students. But there I majored in Spanish. So I taught the Spanish language for a few years there.
So I believe Spanish and English as a second language?
Yes, that's a good point. So I did my undergraduate in Spanish, but then I did my master's degree also at Emporia State in TESOL, which is Teaching English to Speakers of Other Languages.
Oh, wow.
Bit of a mouthful. But so that's my background, is teaching English as a second language and teaching foreign language in general. But of course, with that background, there's a lot of overlap with, an international environment, a diverse setting, people from all over the world. So that's my background. Yeah.
So, and I think it does make sense because you've been sort of into multiple cultures, multiple languages, and you're somebody who's well-traveled. So from students' perspective, you would be the right go-to person to take inspiration from and to take advice from, is how I see it. Okay, so Emporia State, I believe, was established in 1863,
That's
making it
right.
some 161 years old.
You did your homework.
So this is something we usually talk about on this podcast is what are the core values of the institute you represent? And how do you think, because it's such an old institute, how do you think these values have changed over the years?
That is a really profound question. So first and foremost, our most core value at Emporia State University is affecting change within yourself and your community. So we really believe about having a community impact and fostering a type of student who can, no matter where they're from, if they're from Emporia or the surrounding area, or if they're from Ahmedabad, bringing back their education to their community and affecting positive change there. Like you mentioned, we were founded in 1863. We were originally founded as a teachers training college. So the only mission was to produce teachers. In fact, the Teachers Hall of Fame is located on our campus. So it's actually a really cool memorial to go visit.
If I'm not wrong, that college of teaching the teachers still exists.
Yeah, it still does. In fact, I was part of that with the TESOL program.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Okay.
And so, we still hold true to that value. But yeah, so we were the teachers training college, and then we evolved into a state college, started offering a more broad range of programs. And then to this day, I'm sure we'll talk about it more later on, but we offer over 200 programs now. So a little bit of something for everybody at Emporia State.
So something I read about Emporia State was the focus on diversity, if I'm not wrong. And I'd like to think diversity is something which is often underrated. So let's say if I'm a student who goes studying abroad, if I am with other students or other people who come from very diverse backgrounds, that would be adding a lot more value to my learning journey, is what I'd like to believe. And you can tell me if you disagree or if you have something to add onto this.
Yeah, I do. First of all, I think you're spot on. That is the whole mission of the international office, of which I'm a part, is that we believe in the power of diversity, international diversity specifically, in adding value to your education. So for example, an international student can come partake in our business courses and share their perspective of how does business work in India? How does business work in Bolivia? Because, of course, it's going to be very different to how it works all over the world. We also have professors from different countries as well. So diversity in that regard is important to us, but diversity in terms of, socioeconomic diversity is important to us as well. And I think that's reflected in our low costs and our focus on providing scholarships and financial aid to students, so that, we're getting diversity on many levels. We're getting, socioeconomic, we're getting international, we're getting rural versus urban students. So I think it goes many, many layers deep, and I think we have our finger on the pulse, so to speak, of those different levels. So,
okay,
great question.
I think it's only fair we talk about the preposterously fascinating Mascot. Why the Hornet?
That's a really good question. I wish I had was able to portray the evolution of his design. He was actually originally designed by one of our most famous alums, who actually ended up designing characters for Disney.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
So if I'm not mistaken, he was the original designer of either Goofy or Pluto, one of the Disney dogs that was a famous character. So yeah, he designed him when he went to Emporia State and then went on to create for Disney. So
just maybe 2-3 weeks ago, I was with the representative from CUW, and we were talking about how American schools have, they have their go-to mascots. It's these cougars, falcons, bears, and bulls, and all those things. So Hornet is something which I think is new for me from what I know.
Yeah.
So, and is there a reason? Is there some specific reason, Emporia went with Hornet?
That's a good question. I'm not totally sure. There are certainly Hornets in the area that may have inspired that, but I think it's just
Is there something that the Hornet represents?
To my knowledge, no. It's just it's a kind of an aggressive, but also you can design it to be like lovable and kind of a cute mascot. If you've seen pictures, his name is Corky.
Okay.
Corky the Hornet.
Okay.
And they make him look much more lovable than an actual Hornet. So
With gold and black, I think the
Yes.
colors of.
Yep, that's exactly right. Gold and black. And we also, if you can see my shirt here, this is one of our logos called the Power E. And so this is in the middle of our American football field. You see this on all of our informational pamphlets. So the Power E is, our logo, and Corky is our mascot. Yeah.
Okay. So for somebody who may not be familiar with Emporia State or Emporia the city in general, how would you describe the city of Emporia?
Ooh, lovely question. I adore the city of Emporia. I moved there in the year of 2015
Okay.
to pursue education there and immediately fell in love. So I'm from a little bit of a bigger city. Emporia itself is about 30,000 people.
Huh.
Yep. So yeah, it's quite rural, rather agricultural industry based. There are many farms surrounding it.
So from what I understand, Emporia is a very close-knit community.
Exactly.
And ESU plays a huge role with this community.
Exactly. So Emporia State, the campus is right in the heart of the community of Emporia. And there's so much interplay between the community and the students, which is really enriching and something that I think you could miss at a big city or a bigger campus. Yeah.
Okay, how would you describe the region around ESU? Oh, I think there's some golf course. There's all those things I could go through.
Yeah, that's a great. What you may have heard of was about disc golf. So that's a very particular form of golf.
Okay.
But you are throwing a frisbee into a basket. And I know this is a very niche sport, but the biggest competition in the world is for that sport is held in Emporia.
Really? Come again? Is you throwing a frisbee into a basket? So
Yeah.
that's not a golf course.
It is called disc golf. So it is golf. In a way, it's the same rules. The fewest amount of throws wins. But you throw the disc and then you walk to it and you throw it again until you get into the basket. And there's probably 10 courses in Emporia and the surrounding area.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and actually one of the largest companies of producers of disc golf's like the product, but also who grew the sport itself, is an Emporia State alum and opened the biggest facility in Emporia. So, he could have moved to Austin, Texas and opened this. He could have moved to New York, but he decided to bring the industry back to Emporia because he loved the community so much. So that may have been what you heard of. We do also have 2 ball golf courses. We have to differentiate disc golf and ball golf.
And then there's some sports club and all those things around as well, if I'm not wrong.
That's right. Yeah, we have all kinds of different sports. In fact, you're looking at the 2019 table tennis co-ed champion.
Oh, wow.
Yep, that's exactly right.
I should have started that.
I
in the
know.
Introduction. That should have been, okay.
My biggest accomplishment.
Okay. So you've been a language teacher, and I think it would only make sense if you, and I'm sure you'd be able to describe the campus in the most auditorily pleasing way. What we'll do is we'll also throw visuals. So for somebody who wants to go to the campus, how would you describe it?
How would I describe the campus?
It's some 200 acres.
Yes, exactly.
I believe.
Yeah, so that's it sounds large, but it is very walkable.
Okay.
Everything you need is located on campus: the cafeteria, the dormitories, all of the class buildings and the administration buildings. Some campuses are spread throughout cities, like Chicago, for example. I know a lot of their university campuses are in different parts of the city. Ours is all together. In fact, the only thing that was separate was our nursing program would go to the community hospital. But now we've just broken ground on building our own nursing complex on campus. So everything is going to be right there. And then again, the campus is located at the focal point of the city. So that's a really nice thing for international students is the walkability of the city. So everything needs on campus, but again, you can walk to a grocery store or one of our coffee shops, restaurants, movie theaters. Everything's walkable. And that's actually quite unusual in the United States. Most cities, you must have a car to get around town, but Emporia is rather walkable.
So what we'll do, one is the visuals, and the other thing I saw was, I think the website has the virtual tour feature. I think there's those 360 photos and videos. And I think that's a great guide for somebody who wants to explore the campus. So what we'll do is we'll throw the link in the description if somebody wants to go through
that. Would be excellent.
Okay. So there's also these traditions that I read about, and like we were discussing earlier, Silent Joe being one of them. And I think that might have sort of died off. But there's so many other traditions that we were talking about. If you could name a few.
Yeah, sure.
And then I have a follow-up question, but I think let's start by naming them.
Sure, let's talk about some traditions. So I would say first and foremost, homecoming is a really strong tradition at Emporia State. And I think that's a really strong tradition in the United States in general. Most universities, even high schools, celebrate homecoming. If I'm not mistaken, homecoming is celebrated when the football team plays their first home game of the fall semester.
I did not know that.
I'm 99% sure that that's accurate.
Okay. We'll stick to that.
Yeah. Don't fact check me. But in any case, it's a great celebration. At Emporia State, we have a big bonfire, which means, we burn a big fire and the marching band plays our anthem. And then
there's an arc you were talking about, I think.
Yeah, that's another great tradition. So we have the art students on our campus. They built this arch over a sidewalk. And there is said to be a curse on this arch.
Really?
The curse is if you walk under and through the arch, then you will not graduate on time.
Really?
So it's hilarious. There's the sidewalk and the arch, but there's a path in the grass around the arch.
Way.
It's so funny. And I was an undergraduate student. I was an undergraduate student, and I was like, this curse does not exist. So I walked under it. I graduated one semester late.
You graduated late, actually?
Yeah, I graduated one semester late because I walked through the arch.
Interesting.
So that's just one of the many traditions we have.
And there's some song I think you have. What is that about?
Sure, we have our fight song. Most universities do have a fight song. But yeah, ours is played by our marching band at every football game, basketball game, sporting event. We also, we have a tradition of somebody in the crowd started this and it just caught on, where somebody just says, "Go Emporia!" And everybody says it along with them. And I mean, it's just one of the many traditions we have. So.
By any chance, do you want to sing the song? I'm just pulling your leg.
Oh, okay, thank you. My singing voice is a little off today.
Okay. What are some of your favorite spots around the campus? What is like a go-to location?
That's easy for me. So in the center of campus, we have what's called Worcester Lake, named after a famous family in the area. So this is just a beautiful scenic lake with a bridge that crosses right over it. My favorite is in the springtime when everything's blooming. And in the summer when it's just super green. It's really nice to go have a picnic with your friends. Just stay out there and read a book. So that is by far my favorite place to spend time. But really, really close to campus is my favorite coffee shop in the world. And this is not an official plug. There's no affiliation with Emporia State, but Gravel City Roasters is the best coffee shop, and
for the new students, go
exactly. Yeah, that is my secret tip as an Emporian is if you want really good coffee, that's the place to go. They have an art shop. It's nice to read a book there. So lovely place to go. Short walk from campus.
So we talked about some traditions that Emporia has, and they've been seeded over these 161 years. And we talked about the campus, we talked about the culture and the values that Emporia stands for. And how do you think all of these things add up to students' learning journey?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I think the best way to summarize this is that the tight-knit community, the deeply held traditions, it really just makes the student feel like they're a part of a family, a part of a community. And they're able to look at other alumni that we've had in the past. They can get in contact with them and they can just widen their scope of perspective a little bit and see what their possibilities are for their career, for their future. I think the faculty and staff do an incredible job about sharing what opportunities are available, helping with things like identifying financial aid, And the international student office, we really believe in bridging the gap between international students and domestic students. So we have a strong focus on programming to make sure that our international students feel like they're part of the community at large, the campus community and the community of Emporia.
I think so. We talked about things. I think now we want to talk about the most relevant thing and the crux of it all.
Sure.
And if you could give us the program overview at all the colleges at Emporia State.
Yeah, absolutely. So Emporia State is proud to offer over 200 academic programs.
Wow.
We offer bachelor's degrees, master's degrees. We have pre-professional programs. And many of our programs end in licensure. So some of our education or our counseling programs, for example. We have programs that range all the way from STEM programs. So, biology, chemistry, computer science, mathematics. The sciences delve further into, physical science, space science. Yeah, and then we have programs like art and music, things like ceramics and painting, music programs, vocal music. And then to get more back to the science side, we have, psychology, social sciences, English.
Interesting.
Yes. We have Spanish, which was what my major was, as I mentioned. Not super relevant to Indian students, in my knowledge. I'm not sure how far Spanish goes in India, but...
No, there's some schools. So for example, for me, I was able to select French as a foreign language.
Great.
And then some schools in India, the A-League schools, they would offer an additional foreign language. So there would be some students who get Spanish or German as an option.
Fantastic. Yes, so we have that, and we have graduate degrees as well. So our MBA and our information technology program are our top two programs for international students, without a doubt, especially our Indian students. And Emporia State actually has a really unique program called the dual degree program. So as you know, it takes 2 years to complete a normal master's degree. Well, with the dual degree, you can do the MBA and the MSIT at the same time, receive 2 master's degrees in only 3 years.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Interesting.
So we have all these great programs, and we also have our own intensive English program. So maybe, you're working on getting that IELTS score up a little bit. Well, you can come learn English with us and then transition seamlessly into your academic courses.
Really?
That's
there's
right.
no prerequisite for these foreign going competitive exams, your IELTS and TOEFL and...
That's a great point. So English scores are not required for admission at Emporia State University. We do accept them, and if you are above a certain threshold, then you do not require English language training. However, if you are not above that level, no problem. You can take English courses with us in our intensive English program and then move straight into your academic courses.
Interesting. Okay. If you could name the top 3 most popular programs amongst international students at Emporia State, they could be mix of both UG and PG.
Okay.
But in terms of how many students enroll for these programs?
Sure, great question. So for our undergraduates, if I had to pick the top 3, I would say our third most popular is our psychology program. This has we offer a Bachelor of Arts and a Bachelor of Science in the psychology. Second most interesting for undergraduate would be the Bachelor of Science in Computer Science. Yep, so that is very interesting. We have different concentrations like data security and information management. And then our number 1 most popular program is our BBA, our Bachelor of Business Administration.
Interesting.
This has many concentrations as well, like marketing, international business, e-commerce, etc. As far as PG goes, a postgrad, PG, that, let's see, our third most popular program would probably be our IDT, Instructional Design and Technology. So this is for people who are interested in using cutting edge software to present information. Maybe that's for a university, maybe that's for a healthcare system, maybe that's for a company's HR. But I know many alum who have great jobs in the United States now because of that. Second most popular then would be our information technology, as I previously mentioned. Again, there's things like data analytics, data security, app development. And then our most popular, of course, is the MBA, the Master of Business Administration. And again, international business, entrepreneurship, e-commerce, marketing, accounting, and financial services.
Would you say business administration is what Emporia is known for in a way?
It is definitely trending in that direction. No doubt. As our MBA grows, it just gets bigger every year. They've even added on a new physical component to the business school. So our business college representatives are actually traveling the world right now, recruiting international students. So it's there's no better time to join the MBA program than right now. It's true.
So, from my understanding, students make their study abroad journey decisions based on multiple factors. And I'd like to think one of them is how flexible their career options are, to put it in words. So what I'm trying to understand is, example, if I'm a student at Emporia State and if I am majoring in management program, can I study history with it? Is Emporia allowing me to be that flexible with my fields of study?
It's a really good question. So absolutely. The answer in short is absolutely. You can major in one thing and take a minor in the other. You could even double major. The only risk you run at that point is that you might go over 4 years. It might take a little time if you do a double major. But it is very normal and expected to do a major and a minor. For example, my major was Spanish and my minor was political science. You could hardly have two more different subjects, but because I was passionate about both of them, I combined them. So there's a lot of flexibility in that realm.
Another thing that you may find students often end up with is they may find themselves in a dilemma while choosing a subject or choosing a field of study or a domain per se. Or they could also find themselves in dilemma after they've already started. Example, if I've started with tech and then I realize, this is not for me. So what advice would you have for students in case if how can they avoid being in such a stalemate?
Wow, what a good question. Well, one thing I really love about the American education system of higher ed is the concept of gen eds, so general education. So this is usually your first year and a half of study in the United States. You're taking courses from many different subjects, getting to explore what your interests are. You don't have to come to Emporia State with a hard, firm decision and this is what you're going to be stuck with for 4 years. No, quite the contrary. You can have the flexibility to switch programs even if it's 2 years in. The only risk you run, of course, at that point is you might need a little more than 4 years. But it's very normal and to a degree expected that you will change your course in the middle of those 4 years.
Fair. So you would expect students to evolve with new information, and I think this makes sense with the general education concept is you get all of this information before you make your decision. Okay, if I'm not wrong, I believe Emporia State has a 95% career outcome ratio. What are some of the things that you guys do to help students with their career assistance?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought this up. Minor correction, 98%.
Wow.
So 98% of our graduates have a job in their field of study within 6 months of graduation.
Interesting.
We are incredibly proud of that statistic. So I love sharing that. Thank you for bringing it up. So we have a career service office that is entirely dedicated to helping students identify internship opportunities, identify career perspectives, prepare them for even interviews, help them with having a professional attire. Their whole existence is helping you find that job after university because at the end of the day, we love having a great time at Emporia State. We love building memories, friendships, enjoying the fun aspects of life. But at the end of the day, it's all about making the money, right?
Exactly.
So that's what they're there for, is helping you identify that job so you can start raking in the dough.
So, so what are some of the things you would see your alumni doing? What are the career paths you would see? What are the common career paths you would see with ESU?
Great question. So I know that we've had some alum go on to work in the finance sector for accounting firms. I'm thinking about examples of my close friends who have graduated. One was a journalism major, and she is actually now in New York City working for NBC and
Oh, wow.
a publication called El Mundo. I forget the name of it exactly,
Okay.
but it's a bilingual publication with NBC, which is probably the largest media station in the country.
Okay.
So she's in New York City doing that right now. Let's see, we have a PhD student who's in Alaska working at research facilities in space science, using some of the most cutting edge telescopes looking into space. I know that we've had some people go on to take work at Google, for example. So again, that's just a career service helping you identify those opportunities.
So we talked about so there's tons of opportunities post student graduates from ESU, but what about while they're studying during their education? Is there some on-campus opportunities that they get?
Great question. So international students can work up to 20 hours per week.
Okay.
There are many different opportunities. For example, they could work at our library or our coffee shop, or maybe at our recreation center if they're a fan of sports. They could even work for, the math department or the international office. We employ student workers every single semester. So I think right now there are more jobs than there are people willing to work them. So you come to Emporia State and you have a job waiting for you, essentially. So that's one aspect. Another aspect is CPT and OPT. I'm sure you're familiar with these concepts. So the CPT is basically an internship that you have during your study, and you can be paid during these, not every time, but you can be paid during these. And then OPT is after your studies. So once you've graduated, you can stay in the United States for 1 year and work for a company. Now, if you are a STEM student, a science, technology, engineering, mathematics, you can be eligible for a STEM extension.
So 2 years, I believe?
Up to 3 years, actually.
Oh, okay. So additional 2 years.
Additional 2 years, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so US education is usually fairly expensive, considered expensive for international students. How would you say Emporia ranks in terms of cost? What is the cost like, and what are some of the financial aids or scholarships that students can apply for?
Incredible question. So Emporia State, I think that is our greatest appeal to international students, is that our barrier of entry is low, and we fight hard to keep it that way. There are more than 4,000 universities in the United States, and we are ranked number 33 for offering financial aid and scholarships to international students specifically. Wow. So that barrier of entry is as low as it could possibly be. And, lucky for students in this area, they have Rao Consultancy that they can go through. And, as per our new agreement, they are able to lock in the partnership rate, which by default is more than $5,000 less than the regular tuition costs. That means most international students are paying less than $15,000 per year, and most of them about $10,000 per year.
Okay, what are some of the other scholarship opportunities that a student may get?
Yeah, great question. So for undergraduate students, there are many scholarship opportunities available. So actually, scholarships begin to apply automatically once a student has more than a 3.0 GPA. Of course, in the United States, we use a 4.0 scale. So if they have, the 75% or higher, then scholarships begin automatically. And if they take the SAT, which, by the way, is not required for admission to Emporia State, if they take the SAT, then they could get even more scholarship money, up to $3,000 per year, which is renewable. So it happens again every single year they are with us. So again, that's, that $15,000 per year, that's the baseline. So every additional money you're getting below that, students can be paying as low as, $7,000 a year for tuition. That's really mind-blowing. Because it can be like,
that does not sound like US education.
I know, exactly.
Okay.
So that's one scholarship. We also have talent-based scholarships. So for athletes or musicians or artists, there are scholarships available through that. And then there are also kind of random scholarships that come and go, like our housing scholarship that can help you pay some money towards your housing costs. Now, for graduate students, we also do offer graduate assistantships, which means you basically work for a professor or for a department in exchange for paying $0 in tuition and receiving a stipend bi-weekly or monthly, a regular stipend in any case to help you afford cost of living.
What SAT score would you say is post which you get these scholarship opportunities.
Scholarships with the SAT begin at 1060.
Okay, that's. I think most students can get 1060.
Achievable, very achievable, yeah. So if you can get at least a 1060, then you're in the range for making some scholarship money right away.
So I gave SAT maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
And that's when I was planning my education, and I think I got 1420. And if I could get 1420, I'm sure a lot of students would be able to. Okay, so we're getting to the end of the podcast, and there's another thing that I could think of that I could ask you is, because you've done 2 degrees at Emporia State, what does a day in the life of a student at Emporia look like?
Sure, I think I'm a great person to answer that question. So for me, typically, let's say I'm living on campus at this time, I'll wake up in my dormitory, I'll walk downstairs, I'll hang out with my friends for a few minutes, then we'll walk over together to the cafeteria, which is only 5 minutes walk down the way. Have some breakfast, drink some coffee, probably, walk over to the Starbucks coffee shop that's located on the Memorial Union, have a coffee there, and then I'll head over to Plum Hall, which is where most of my classes were, walk up to the 3rd floor, get some lovely views of the Kansas landscape while I take my first classes of the day. Then I'll walk back downstairs to the cafeteria, have some lunch in the middle of the day. I got a couple more classes after that. Usually no more than 3 classes in a day, 3 to 4 classes maybe.
Okay.
And then finally done for the day, I'll study for, do some homework for about an hour. And then let's say there's a football game that night. Emporia State, the Hornets are playing. We're playing against our rivals, the Gorillas, the Pittsburgh State Gorillas. So I'll watch the football game with some friends, go cheer, go crazy. And then I'll come back in and study like the good student that I am until late at night. And and then, maybe on the weekend I'll go to downtown Emporia, go experience some of the nightlife that we have, hang out with friends. Hopefully it's a holiday. That's when the most people are out on the town. So I think that's a nice little day in the life of a Hornet at ESU.
Interesting. I think I said interesting way too many times. Okay. So for students that are planning to get to Emporia State and let's say they've already applied or they're planning to apply, what advice would you have for them?
Ooh, great question. I would say get your application started. That way we have your information, we have your email, we can contact you and answer any questions that you might have. We are a very transparent and approachable team. So I do really encourage students to reach out. We are happy to answer any questions you may have. We're going to help you identify the scholarships that you qualify for to make sure you're receiving as much scholarship money as possible. I would encourage you to, maybe you're finishing secondary school, maybe you're about to transfer, study hard, get those grades up as good as you can, because that just means you're paying less money. Let my team help you identify some housing, cheap housing in the city. Typically, I'm the one who will pick you up personally at the airport. So I'll see you in Kansas City for the short drive to Emporia. And then as far as more advice, I would say do definitely explore your options. As much as I want you to come to Emporia State, explore your options, find out what's best for you. Education in the United States is some of the best in the world. I think what you're going to find is that Emporia State is going to be your most financially smart option. Keep that in your mind. But please do your research, do your homework. And even so, I'm happy to help you through every step of the way. So please do reach out. And that would be my best advice.
No, that's some really good advice.
Thank you.
If I were a student, I would definitely go through all of these things. Okay, good. I think we've talked about campus, we've talked about programs, we've talked about quite a few things. And I think we'll stop here. Then thank you for joining us today. And I'm sure I've learned a lot of things from you, and students that would be planning for ESU would also be, be fine.
Okay. Can I say one last thing?
Sure, please.
I'd just like to share one last tradition that we have at Emporia State. So as you know, we are the Hornets, and these insects have stingers, right? So we have a special hand sign. We say stingers up with the pinky. Will you do it with me? Stingers up.
Stingers up.